Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Uh, Today we are going to start the chapter number 5 of strategic planning. The chapter name is the strategies in action. In this chapter, we are going to study the value of establishing long-term objectives. We are going to identify 16 types of business strategies. Furthermore, we're going to see the numerous examples of organizations pursuing different type of strategies, as well as uh, we're going to discuss the guidelines when particular strategies are most appropriate to pursue, mean in which condition. Furthermore, we're going to discuss the 4 to 5 generic strategies, and we're going to describe the strategic management in non-profit, government, and small organizations. So we are also going to discuss the balance scorecard, and we're going to contrast the financial objectives of a firm with the strategic objectives, and we're going to discuss the levels of strategies in large versus small organization. And furthermore, we're going to learn about the first mover advantage. So let's see the further uh, detail about the strategic management process, that where we are at this moment according to the chapter in the strategic management process. So let's see further. Yeah, this is the strategic management process which we have started in the early semester. So now we are at the chapter number 5, where we need to establish the long-term objectives, and after this we would be able to generate, evaluate, and select the strategies, which would be the most important chapter, and then we will move towards the implementation and evaluation. Okay, so this is one of the most important chapter, because we are going to identify different strategies, uh, out of which we are going to evaluate and select the strategies in the next chapter. So here first we need to talk about the long-term objectives. Long-term objectives represent the results expected from pursuing certain strategies. Strategies represent the actions to be taken to accomplish long-term objectives. The time frame for objectives and strategies should be consistent. Many times it is going to be said that it is 2 to 5 years, but in previous lectures, I told you many times that I'm not satisfied with the definition of 2 to 5 years. I consider that how much uh, an objective is going to contribute in achieving your vision and mission, and the more contribution towards the vision and mission, the more the objective is moved towards a strategic objective from the operational objective. So this is one of the most important uh, definition about the long-term objectives. Uh, when we talk about the objectives, so objectives should be quantitative, measurable, realistic, understandable, challenging, hierarchical, obtainable, and congruent among organizational units. Each objective should also be associated with a timeline. Objectives are commonly stated in terms such as growth in assets, growth in sales, profitability, market share, etc. 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 When we talk about the long term objectives, they are needed at the corporate, regional, and functional level of the organization. They are actually an important measure of managerial performance. So we need to focus that how an organization is going to derive the long-term objective and how they are going to achieve those objectives. Okay, so whenever they make the objective, the long-term objective, they should have these 8 characteristics into them. Okay, so let's move on and let's see what we need to do in the next. Here we have the varying performance measured by the organizational level. As I told you in the previous slide that long-term objectives or the objectives are an important measure of the managerial performance. So how much their performance is based on the long-term objective and how much their performance is based on the annual objective, that is going to be mentioned over here. The people who are working at the corporate level, okay, so there's 75% of the annual bonus is based on the long-term objective and 25% is based on the annual objective. But the people who are working at the division level, uh, their 50% of the annual bonus is based on the long-term objective and 50% is on the annual objective, and so on. The people who are working at the functional level or the manager who are working at the functional level, they are going to have 25% of the annual bonus based on the long-term objective and 75% is based on the annual objectives. A particular organization could alter these guidelines to meet uh, its own needs, but incentives should be attached to both the long-term objectives as well as the annual objectives. So this is one of the table which is going to give us the criteria onto which many organizations are going to distribute their uh, annual incentives. So let's move on. My dear students, without long-term objectives, an organization would drift aimlessly towards some unknown end. It is hard to imagine an organization or individual being successful without clear objectives. So, when an organization is going to set some clear objective, they are going to get some benefits. And what are the benefits? You are going to see the list of the benefits. These are some of the benefits, some of the major benefits which an organization can have, like provide direction by revealing expectation, allows synergy, aid in evaluating by serving as standards, establish priorities, reduce uncertainty from the environment, minimize the conflicts, stimulate exertion, so which is going to result in the higher efficiency, aid in allocation of resources, which is going to drive you towards a better utilization of resources, aid in design of jobs, provide basis for consistent decision making. So these are some of the uh, benefits which an organization is going to have. There are two types of objectives are especially common in organizations, especially which we are going to say. The first is the financial and second is the strategic objectives. Financial objectives include those associated with growth in revenue, growth in earning, higher dividend, larger profit margin, greater return on investment, higher earnings per share, a rising stock price, improved cash flow, and so on. Uh, and furthermore, I would like to say that although financial objectives are especially important in the firm, oftentimes there is a trade-off between financial and strategic objectives, such that crucial decisions have to be made. So, in such a way, you are going to consider the strategic objectives as well. So, it depends that at what time, which kind of objectives you're going to focus. For example, a firm can do certain things to maximize short-term financial objectives that would harm the long-term strategic objective. Uh, to improve the financial position in the short run through the higher prices may. So this is the condition in which uh, they are going to harm their own long-term objective, but there was a need to have the short-term financial to achieve the short-term financial objectives. So let's move on and see the some of the strategic objectives as well. But so strategic objectives include things such as a larger market share, quicker on-time delivery than rivals, shorter design to market times than the rivals, lower cost than the rivals, higher product quality, wider geographical coverage, achieving technological leadership, consistently getting new or improved products to market ahead of your competitors or the rivals. So financial objective can best be met by focusing first and foremost on achievement of the strategic objective that improves a firm's competitiveness and market strength. Uh, as you can see, if you are not going to achieve these objectives, how you can get the return in the financial terms? So we can say that strategic objectives help an organization to achieve their financial objectives. Okay, so not management by objectives. It means not MBO. It doesn't mean that the author is going to say that you should not follow the MBO, but it is something that if you are not going to follow the MBO, what would be the other options? If you try to find out, do you have some good option behind there? Let's see that what are the other option if we are not going to follow the MBO. So the first option, if we are not going to follow the MBO, would be management by extrapolation. Management by extrapolation adheres to the principle: if it is not broken, don't fix it. The idea is to keep on doing about the same thing in the same ways because things are going well. So it is a kind of a status quo in which an organization is going to be stuck. So if I would be the manager, I would not follow the extrapolation because I don't want to go into a status quo position. So let's see what is the second option. The second option is the management by crisis. And what management by crisis is going to say? It is based on the belief that the true measures of a good strategist is the ability to solve problems. Management by crisis is actually a form of reacting rather than acting and of letting events dictate the what and when of management decisions. So if I would become the manager, I would not even try to opt the managing by crisis, because if I'm going to face some crisis and then I try to resolve those crises, then I would not be a good manager. I don't want to be a person who's going to fix the problems. I want to be a person who's going to try to avoid the problems. So management by crisis is again not fit for me if I'm going to be a strategist anywhere. Now look at the third management style, which is managing by subjective. Management by subjective is built on the idea that there is no general plan for which way to go and what to do. Just do the best you can to accomplish what you think should be done. In short, do your own thing the best way you know how. So if you don't know what is the best way, or the best way you know is not actually the best way, it means you're going on to the some wrong way. So I think we should need to have the better than the management by subjective. So the last hope is the managing by hope. So managing by hope is based on the fact that the future is full of uncertainty, and if at first you don't succeed, then you may on the second or third try. The Balanced Scorecard. It is developed in 1993 by Harvard Business School professors Robert Kaplan and David Norton and refined continually through today. The Balanced Scorecard is a strategy, evaluation, and control technique. Balanced Scorecard derives its name from perceived need of firms to balance financial measures that are oftentimes used exclusively in strategy evaluation and control with non-financial measures such as product quality and customer service. An effective balanced scorecard contains a carefully chosen combination of strategic and financial objective altered to the company's business. The balanced scorecard is currently in use at Sears, United Parcel Service, 3M Corporation, Haynes, and hundreds of other firms. For example, 3M Corporation has a financial objective to achieve annual growth in earning per share of 10% or better, as well as a strategic objective to have at least 30% of sales come from products introduced in the past 4 years. The overall aim of the balanced scorecard is to balance shareholders' objectives with customers and operational objectives. Obviously, these set of objectives interrelate and may even conflict. For example, customers want low price and high service, which may conflict with shareholders' desire for a high rate on their investment. The balanced scorecard concept is consistent with the notion of continuous improvement in management and total quality management. Strategy making is not just a task for the top management. Middle and operational level managers too must be involved in the strategic planning process to extent possible. Uh, as you can see here, in large organization, there are actually four levels of strategies: corporate level strategies, divisional level strategies, functional, and the operational strategies. You can also see that different designations who are there to participate into the strategy uh, development process. Like for the corporate level strategy, chief executive officer is responsible, and for the division level strategy, division president or executive vice president is the responsible. But when we talk about the functional level strategy, so the finance, marketing, research and development, manufacturing, information system, and human resource managers are going to participate for the decision making or the strategy formulation. And at the operational level, plant managers, sales managers, production and department managers are going to form the strategies. But however, in small firms, there are actually three levels of strategies: uh, company level, functional level, and operational level. And you can see that at the company level, owner or the president is going to take the responsibility of formulating the strategy. But at the functional level, finance, marketing, R&D, manufacturing, information system, and human resource managers are going to take those responsibilities. And at the operational level, same as the plant manager, sales manager, production, or departmental managers are going to take the responsibility to formulate the strategies for the organization. Now it's time to discuss the types of the strategies. As in the start of this chapter, I told you that we're going to discuss 16 types of business strategies into this chapter. So first we need to discuss the integration strategies. Forward integration, backward integration, and horizontal integrations are sometimes collectively referred to as vertical integration strategies. Vertical integration strategies allows a firm to gain control over distributors, suppliers, or the competitors. Okay, so now we're going to see each of their domain, mean forward integration, backward integration, and horizontal integration into the next slide. First, the forward integration. Uh, it involves gaining ownership or increased control over distributors or retailers. Increasing number of manufacturers today are pursuing a forward integration strategy by establishing websites to directly sell products to consumers. This strategy is causing the turmoil in some industry. For example, Microsoft is opening its own retail stores, a forward integration strategy similar to the competitor Apple, which currently has more than 200 stores around the world. Microsoft wants to learn firsthand about what, what consumers want and how they buy. So for the purpose, they have start opening their own stores. An effective means of implementing the forward integration is franchising. There are some guidelines indicate that when forward integration may be an especially effective strategy. So few of them are when an organization's present distributors are especially expensive or unreliable or incapable of meeting the firm's distribution needs. Uh, on the second, when the availability of quality distributor is so limited as to offer a competitive advantage to those firms that integrate forward. If we see another option, when an organization competes in an industry that is growing and is expected to continue to grow markedly. This is a factor because forward integration reduces an organization's ability to diversify if its basic industry falters. Okay, now it's time to discuss the backward integration. Uh, Both manufacturers and retailers purchase needed material from suppliers. Backward integration is a strategy of seeking ownership or increased control of a firm's supplier. This strategy can be especially appropriate when a firm's current suppliers are unreliable, too costly, or cannot meet the firm's need. When you buy a box of Pampers diaper at Walmart, a scanner at the store's checkout counter instantly zaps an order to Procter and Gamble company. In a major strategic shift to design its own computer chips, Apple Incorporation in 2009 began a backward integration strategy to shield Apple technology from the competitor firms. Apple began soon to produce its own internally developed chips for its iPhones and iPod touch devices. However, in some industries, they start reducing their historical pursuit of backward integration. For example, in the automotive and aluminum industry in USA, because they are going to have the global sources of supply, so they are moving towards a de-integration, and they are thinking that for the global suppliers there should be uh, a specific person who is responsible just for the logistics and the things. So they are trying to disintegrate and they are focusing on this specialized work only. There are few guidelines available for when backward integration may be an especially effective strategy. For example, when an organization's present suppliers are especially expensive or unreliable or incapable of meeting the firm's need, for parts, components, assemblies, or raw materials. When the number of suppliers is small and the number of competitors is large. When an organization competes in an industry that is growing rapidly, this is a factor because integrative type strategies, forward, backward, and horizontal, reduce an organization's ability to diversify in a declining industry. When an organization has both capital and human resources to manage the new business of supplying its own raw material, etc., etc., etc. Now let's move on to the horizontal integration. Horizontal integration refers to a strategy of seeking ownership of or increased control over a firm's competitor. One of the most significant trends in strategic management today is the increased use of horizontal integration as a growth strategy. Mergers, acquisitions, and takeovers among competitors allow for increased economies of scale and enhanced transfer of resources and competences. As we have seen in the past, a lot of mergers and acquisitions into the banking sector. So there are also few guidelines which indicate when horizontal integration may be an especially effective strategy. So some of them are when an organization can gain monopolistic characteristics in a particular area or region without being challenged by the federal government for tending substantially to reduce competition. Furthermore, when an organization competes in a growing industry, when increased economy of scale provide major competitive advantage, or when an organization has both the capital and human talent needed to successfully manage an expanded organization. And the last is when competitors are faltering due to a lack of managerial expertise or a need for particular resources that an organization possesses. Note that horizontal integration would not be appropriate if competitors are doing poorly because in that case over industry sales are declining. Now it's time to discuss the intensive strategies. Um, Market penetration, market development, and product development are sometimes referred to as intensive strategies because they require intensive efforts. If a firm's competitive position with existing products is to improve. The first intensive strategy is the market penetration. A market penetration strategy seeks to increase market share for present product or services in present markets through greater marketing efforts. This strategy is widely used alone and in combination with other strategies. Market penetration includes increasing the number of salesperson, increasing advertising expenditures, offering extensive sales promotion items, or increasing publicity efforts. Market penetration has five guidelines which indicates when market penetration may be an effective strategy. The first of them is when current markets are not saturated with a particular product or service. Second, when the usage rate of present customers could be increased significantly. Third, when the market shares of major competitors have been declining while total industry sales have been increasing. Number 4, when the correlation between the dollar sales and the dollar marketing expenditures historically has been high. And the fifth and the last, when increased economies of scale provide major competitive advantage. Now it's a time to discuss the market development, the second strategy of the intensive strategies. Market development involves introducing present products or services into new geographic areas. For example, retailers such as Walmart, stores, Carrefour, and Tesco PLC are expanding further into the China in 2009, 2010, even in a world of slumping sale. Um, as you know that Carrefour has opened their stores in Pakistan, they have taken over the hyperstars. Furthermore, if I talk about the PepsiCo Incorporation is spending $1 billion in China from 2009 to 2012 to build more plants, specifically in western and interior areas of China. Also in China, PepsiCo is developing products tailored to Chinese consumers, building a larger sales force and expanding research and development efforts. China is Pepsi's second largest beverage market by volume, behind the United States. Pepsi owns Lay's potato chips and in China sells the chips with Beijing duck flavor. So Pepsi has 41% share of the potato chips market in China. So there is a guideline which indicates when market development may be an effective strategy. So there are the six guidelines. The first of them is when new channels of distribution are available that are reliable, inexpensive, and of good quality. Number two, when an organization is very successful at what it does. Number three, when new, untapped, or unsaturated markets exist. Number four, when an organization has the needed capital and human resources to manage expanded operations. Number five, when an organization has excess production capacity. And number six, when an organization's basic industry is rapidly becoming global in scope. Now, the third strategy out of these intensive strategy is the product development. Product development is a strategy that seeks increased sales by improving or modifying present product or services. Product development usually entails large research and development expenditures. Google's new Chrome operating system illuminates years of uh, monies spent on product development. Google expects Chrome operating system to overtake Microsoft Windows by 2015, but till 2020 they are not that much successful. So there are a few guidelines, 5 guidelines, which indicate when product development may be an uh, effective strategy to pursue. The first one is when an organization has successful products that are in a maturity stage of the product lifecycle. The idea here is to attract satisfied customers to try new improved products as a result of their positive experience with the organization's present product or services. Number two, when an organization competes in an industry that is characterized by rapid technological development. Number three, when major competitors offer better quality product at comparable prices. Number four, when an organization competes in high growth industry. And the number five, when an organization has especially strong research and development capability. So these are some of the intensive strategies which we have discussed. Let's move on to some other types of strategies. Now it's a time to discuss the diversification strategies. There are two general types of diversification strategies: weighted and unweighted diversification. Businesses are said to be weighted when their value chain possesses competitively valuable cross-business strategic fits. Businesses are said to be unrelated when their value chains are so dissimilar that no competitively valuable cross-business relationship exists. Most of the companies favor weighted diversification strategies in order to capitalize on synergies as follows: transferring competitively valuable expertise, technological know-how, or other capabilities from one business to another, combining the related activities of separate businesses into a single operation to achieve lower cost. Number three, exploiting common use of a well-known brand name. And finally, the cross-business collaboration to create competitively valuable resources, strengths, and capabilities. Diversification strategies are becoming less popular as organizations are finding it more difficult to manage diverse business activities. The greater risk of being in a single industry is having all of the firms like in one basket. Although many firms are successful operating in a single industry, new technologies, new products, or fast shifting buyers' preferences can decimate a particular business. Diversification must do more than simply spread business risk across different industries. However, because shareholders could accomplish this by simply purchasing equity in different firms across different industries or by investing in mutual funds. Diversification makes sense only to the extent the strategy adds more to shareholders' value than what shareholders could accomplish acting individually. Thus, the chosen industry for diversification must be attractive enough to yield consistently high returns on investment and offer potential across the operating divisions for synergies greater than those entities could achieve alone. In weighted diversification, Google's stated strategy is to organize all the world's information into searchable form, diversifying the firm beyond its roots as a web search engine that sells advertising. In a weighted diversification move in 2009, Tyson Foods entered the dog food business, selling refrigerated pet food targeted to consumers who give their pets everything from clothes and car seats to cemetery graves. Prior to this move by Tyson, meatpacking companies has been content to sell scraps such as chicken fats and byproducts to makers of canned and dry pet foods. Here are the 6 guidelines for when diversification may be an effective strategy are as follows. The first one is when an organization competes in a no growth or a slow growth industry. When adding new but related products would significantly enhance the sales of current product. When new but related products could be offered at highly competitive prices. When new but related products have seasonal sales level that counterbalance an organization's existing peaks and valleys. When an organization's products are currently in the declining stage of the product's life cycle. When an organization has a strong management team. On the other hand, an unweighted diversification strategy favors capitalizing on a portfolio of business that are capable of delivering excellent financial performance in their respective industries, rather than striving to capitalize on value chain strategies fit among the businesses. Firms that imply unweighted diversification continuously search across different industries for companies that can be acquired for a deal and yet have potential to provide a high return on investment. There are few guidelines when unweighted diversification may be especially effective. When revenue derived from an organization's current product or service would increase significantly by adding the new unrelated products. When an organization competes in a highly competitive and or no growth industry as indicated by low industry profit margins and returns. When an organization's present channels of distribution can be used to market the new products to current customers. When the new products have counter-cyclic sales pattern compared to an organization's present product. When an organization's basic industry is experiencing declining annual sales and profits, and etc. In addition to integrative, intensive, and diversification strategies, organizations also could pursue retrenchment, divestiture, or the liquidation strategies, which are going to be encapsulated under the head of the defensive strategies. So let's move on and let's see what these strategies are going to do. The first one is the retrenchment, which occurs when an organization regroups through cost and asset reduction to reverse declining sales and profit. Sometimes calls a turnaround or reorganizational strategy. Retrenchment is designed to fortify an organization's basic distinctive competence. During retrenchment, strategists work with limited resources and face pressure from shareholders, employees, and the media. Retrenchment can entail selling off land and building to raise needed cash, pursuing product lines, closing marginal business, closing obsolete factories, automating processes, reducing the number of employees, and instituting expense control system. In the example of retrenchment strategy, Tribune Company, which owns 8 daily major newspapers, including the Los Angeles Times and Chicago Tribunes, as well as the Chicago Cubs baseball team, recently declared bankruptcy. Tribune is the nation's second largest newspaper chain, but also owns quite a few television stations. So the 5 guidelines are mentioned here. Uh, when retrenchment may be an effective strategy to pursue. The first of those are when an organization has a clearly distinctive competence but has failed consistently to meet its objectives and goals over time. When an organization is one of the weaker competitors in a given industry. Third, when an organization is plagued by inefficiency, low profitability, poor employee morale, and pressure from the stockholder to improve performance. When an organization has failed to capitalize on external opportunities, minimize external threats, take advantage of internal strengths, and overcome internal weaknesses over time. That is when the organization's strategic managers have failed. And the fifth one is when an organization has grown so large, so quickly that major internal reorganization is needed. The second defensive strategy is the divestiture. Selling a domain or part of an organization is called divestiture. Divestiture often is used to raise capital for further strategic acquisitions or investments. Divestiture can be part of an overall retrenchment strategy to rid an organization of businesses that are unprofitable, that require too much capital, or that do not fit well with the firm's other activities. Divestiture has also become a popular strategy for firms to focus on their core business and become less diversified. For example, we can give the example of Resource Academia. That was the division of Punjab Group of Colleges, but they serve it to the Lakas school systems because they were thinking that they need to raise capital through this, or they need to wind up this area, or the you can say diversification. So there are the six guidelines for when divestiture may be an especially effective strategy to pursue forward. Uh, when an organization has pursued a retrenchment strategy and failed to accomplish needed improvements, when a division needs more resources to be competitive than the company can provide, when a division is responsible for an organization's overall poor performance, when a division is a misfit with the rest of an organization, this can result from radical different markets, customer managers, employees, values, or needs. When a large amount of cash is needed quickly and cannot be obtained reasonably from other sources, when government antitrust action threatens an organization. Now the last defensive strategy, that is the liquidation. Selling all of a firm's assets in part for their tangible worth is called liquidation. Liquidation is a recognition of defeat and consequently can be an emotionally difficult strategy. However, it may be better to cease operating than to continue losing large sum of money. For example, despite 4 years in development and 2 years in construction, the Hard Rock Park in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina liquidated in 2009, just 9 months after it opened. The park had been called the world's first rock and roll theme park and the single largest tourism investment in South Carolina history. From its opening in April 2008 to its closing 6 months later, the park generated only $20 million in ticket sales, way below its $24 million in annual interest payment due. The park drew far fewer than the projected 30,000 people a day. Bad planning and being too highly leveraged crushed this business very quickly. There are three guidelines which indicate that liquidation may be an effective strategy to pursue. The first one is when an organization has pursued both a retrenchment strategy and a divestiture strategy and neither has been successful. Second, when an organization's only alternative is bankruptcy. Liquidation represents an orderly and planned means of obtaining the greatest possible cash for an organization's asset. A company can legally declare bankruptcy first and then liquidate various deviants to raise needed capital. And the third, when the stockholders of a firm can minimize their losses by selling the organization's assets. Michael Porter is one of the famous authors in 1980s, as he has written three books: The Comparative Strategy, Comparative Advantage, and Comparative Advantage of Nations, and specifically in the subjects related to the comparative analysis and the strategic analysis. His books were going to be followed. In his books, he has mentioned the three uh, main strategies, uh, or we can say three different bases for the strategies to gain the comparative advantage. These three bases are, one of them is the cost leadership, second is the differentiation, and third is the focus. As you're looking here, that type 1 and type 2 strategies, which are mentioned here, they are derived from the cost leadership, which is the base one of the generic strategies. Then type 3 differentiation is the second base for the generic strategies given by the Michael Porter, and type 4 and type 5 are derived from the uh, third basis for the generic strategies, which is the focus. Porter calls these bases the generic strategies basically. The first one, which is the cost leadership, emphasizes producing standardized products at a very low per unit cost for consumers who are price sensitive. Two alternative type of cost leadership strategies can be defined. Type 1 is a low cost strategy, as you're looking there. The type 1 is cost leadership, the low cost, that offers products or services to a wide range of customers at the lowest price available on the market. And the type 2 is a best value strategy that offers products or services to a wide range of customers at the best price as well as the value available on the market. The best value strategy aims to offer customers a range of products or services at the lowest price available compared to a competitor's product with similar attributes. Both type 1 and type 2 strategies target a large market. Then we need to talk about the type 3, the differentiation. So Porter's type 3 generic strategy is the differentiation, a strategy aimed at producing products and services considered unique industry-wide and directed at consumers who are relatively price insensitive. You can say here that the iPhone is the type 3 product, or you can fall it into the differentiation product. But when you talk about many of the companies like Huawei, MI, Infinix, Vivo, these are kind of our type 1 and type 2 products. Now we need to place some of them into type 1 and some of them into the type 2. If I talk about the Infinix and MI, they are the type 1 product. Cost leadership, low cost. And if we are going to talk about Huawei, Samsung mobiles, so they are going to be the type 2 in cost leadership, best value mobiles. Now we need to move on to the focus strategy, uh, where we are going to have type 4 and type 5. The focus means producing products and services that fulfill the needs of small group of consumers Two alternative type of focus strategies are type 4 and type 5. Type 4 is a low cost focus strategy that offers products or services to a small range niche group of consumers at the lowest price available on the market. Examples of firms that use type 4 strategy include the local pizza shops or local fast food shops nearby our houses, local car dealers which are available in the market, who are going to sell out the used cars into the market. So they are the type 4 products selling. Local shawarma shops, local burger shops, these kind of commodities which are available nearby our houses, and they are going to sell their commodities to a specific group of people into the nearby markets. They are going to be considered into the type 4 focus low cost strategy. The type 5 is a best value focus strategy that offers products or services to a small range of customers at the best price value available on the market, sometimes called focused differentiation. The best value focus strategy aims to offer a niche group of customers, products, or services that meet their tastes and requirements better than competitors' product do. Both Type 4 and Type 5 focus strategy target a small market. However, the difference is that Type 4 strategies offer product services to a niche group at the lowest price, whereas Type 5 offers product services to a niche group at higher prices but loaded with features, so the offering are perceived as the best value. So the examples could be for the type 5 would be the high-end restaurants in Lahore. You can call many of the restaurants like Monal, some Chinese restaurants who are going to have a bit higher prices, the steakhouse, and many more. Uh, Gloria Jeans Cafe, and many more. So these are going to be the type 5 focus best value strategy. So Porter 5 strategies imply different organizational arrangements, control procedures, and incentive systems. Larger firms with greater access to resources typically compete on a cost leadership and or differentiation basis, whereas smaller firms often compete on a focus basis. Porter's 5 strategies are illustrated in the next figure. I'm going to show you the figure into the next slide. The, the thing which is going to be noted is that the differentiation strategy can be pursued with either a small target market or a large target market. However, it is not effective to pursue a cost leadership strategy in a small market because profit margins are generally too small. Likewise, it is not effective to pursue a focus strategy in a large market because economies of scale would generally favor a low cost or best value cost leadership strategy to gain or sustain competitive advantage. Now look at the figure in the next slide. As discussed in the previous slide, that the cost leadership is going to target the large market sizes, but the differentiation strategy is going to have the target on the large markets as well as on the small markets, but the focus strategies again is going to have the small market targets. So these are the targets of different markets according to their generic strategies. Furthermore, the Porter stresses the need for strategies to perform cost benefit analysis to evaluate sharing opportunities among a firm's existing and potential business units. Sharing activities and resources enhances competitive advantage by reducing cost or increasing differentiation. In addition to promoting sharing, Porter stresses the need for firms to effectively transfer skills and expertise among autonomous business units to gain competitive advantage. Depending on factors such as type of industry, size of firms, and nature of competition, various strategies could yield advantage in cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. Now we need to talk about the type 1 or type 2 cost leadership strategy conditions. A primary reason for pursuing forward, backward, or horizontal integration strategies is to gain low cost or the best value cost leadership benefits. So whenever you're going to see that there is some firm who is engaged into the forward integration or the backward integration or into the horizontal integration, it means they are going to focus, they are trying to focus the type 1 or type 2 strategy. But cost leadership generally must be pursued in conjunction with differentiation. A number of cost elements affect the relative attractiveness of generic strategies, including economies or diseconomies of scale achieved, learning and experience curve affect the percentage of capacity utilization achieved, and linkage with supplier and distributors. Uh, Other cost elements to consider in choosing among alternative strategies include the potential for sharing cost and knowledge within the organization, research and development costs associated with new product development or modification of existing products, labor cost, tax rates, energy cost, and shipping costs. Companies implying a low cost type 1 or the best value type 2 cost leadership strategy must achieve their competitive advantage in ways that are difficult for competitors to copy or match. If competitors find it relatively easy or inexpensive to imitate the leader's cost leadership method, the leader's advantage will not last long enough to yield a valuable edge in the marketplace. Here are some of the further conditions which are mentioned in front of you. They include the vigorous price competition, plentiful supply of identical products, little product differentiation, product used in same way, low cost to switch, large buyers with power, industry newcomers use low prices to attract buyers. These strategies are going to create some problem for the cost leadership because these are the conditions which must be met, that there should not be the vigorous price competition, uh, price differentiation should be more, so no one is going to imitate your product, identical products are not available, product is not going to be used in the same way, switching cost should be high, then you can sustain your cost leadership strategy for the longer term. Furthermore, when we talk about the type 1 or type 2 strategy, uh, a firm must ensure that its total cost across its overall value chain are lesser than the competitor's total cost. There are two ways to accomplish this. The first one is perform value chain activities more efficiently than competitors and control the factors that drive the cost of value chain activities. Such activities could include altering the plant layout, mastering newly introduced technologies, using common parts or components in different products, etc. etc. Number two, the second way to accomplish this is revamp the firm's overall value chain to eliminate or bypass some cost producing activities. Such activities could include securing new suppliers or distributors, selling products online, relocating manufacturing facility, avoiding the use of union labels, and so on. When we talk about the differentiation strategy, so that is, as we discussed earlier, that product has some unique features. So different strategies offer different degrees of differentiation. Differentiation does not guarantee competitive advantage, especially if standard products sufficiently meet customer needs or if rapid imitation by competitors is possible. Durable products protected by barriers to quick copying by competitors are best. Successful differentiation can mean greater product flexibility, greater compatibility, lower cost, improved service, less maintenance, greater convenience, or more features. Product development is an example of a strategy that offers the advantages of differentiation. A differentiation strategy should be pursued only after a careful study of buyers' needs and preferences to determine the feasibility of incorporating one or more differentiating features into a unique product that features the desired attributes. A successful differentiation strategy allows a firm to charge a higher price for its products and to gain customer loyalty because consumers may become strongly attached to the differentiation features. Special features that differentiate one's product can include superior service, spare parts availability, engineering design, product performance, useful life, gas mileage, or ease of use. A risk of pursuing a differentiation strategy is that the unique product may not be valued highly enough by the customers to justify the higher prices. When this happens, a cost leadership strategy easily will defeat our differentiation strategy. Another risk of pursuing a differentiation strategy is that competitor may quickly develop ways to copy the differentiating features. Firms thus must find durable sources of uniqueness that cannot be imitated quickly or cheaply by the competitor firms. Common organizational requirements for a successful differentiation strategy include strong coordination among the research and development and marketing functions, and substantial amenities to attract scientists and creative people. Firms can pursue a differentiation strategy based on many different competitive aspects. For example, Mountain Dew and root beer have a unique taste. Lowe's, Home Depot, and Walmart offer wide selection and one-stop shopping. Dell's Computer and FedEx offer superior service. BMW and Porsche offer engineering design and performance. IBM and Hewlett-Packard mean HP offers a wide range of products. So these are different kind of differentiation strategies companies has gained. Type 3 differentiation strategy can be effective under some conditions. The conditions are as follows. When there are many ways to differentiate the product or service and many buyers perceive these differences as having value. Number 2, when buyers' needs and uses are diverse. Number 3, when few competitor firms are following a similar differentiation approach. Number 4, when technological change is fast-paced and competition revolves around rapidly evolving product features. Now we need to talk about the focus strategy, which includes type 4, type 5 strategies. A successful focus strategy depends on an industry segment that is of sufficient size, has good growth potential, and is not crucial to the success of other major competitors. Strategies such as market penetration and market development offer substantial focusing advantages. Mid-size and large firms can effectively pursue focus-based strategies only in conjunction with differentiation or cost leadership-based strategies. All firms, in essence, follow a differentiated strategy because only one firm can differentiate itself with the lowest cost, the remaining firms in the industry must find other ways to differentiate their product. Focus strategies are most effective when customers have distinctive preferences or requirements, and when competitor firms are not attempting to specialize in the same target segment. Risk of pursuing a focus strategy includes the possibility that numerous competitors will reorganize the successful focus strategy and copy it, or that customer preferences will drift towards the product attribute desires by the market as a whole. An organization using a focus strategy may concentrate on a particular group of customers, geographic markets, or on particular product line segments to serve a well-defined but narrow market, better than competitors who serve to a broader market. A low cost or the best value focus strategy can be especially attractive under some conditions, and conditions are as mentioned in front of you. The first one is when the target market niche is large, profitable, and growing. Number two, when industry leaders do not consider the niche to be crucial to their own success. The third one, when industry leaders consider it too costly or difficult to meet specialized needs of the target market niche while taking care of their mainstream customers. Number four, when the industry has many different niches and segments, thereby allowing a focuser to pick a comparatively attractive niche suited to its own resources. And number five, when few, if any, other competitors are attempting to specialize in the same target segment. Now we need to discuss some means for achieving the strategies, as there are five different means which are going to be mentioned to achieve the strategies. The first one is the cooperation among competitors, second is the joint venture and partnering, third is the mergers and acquisition, fourth is the first mover advantages, and the fifth one is the outsourcing. Let's one by one discuss each of them. First, I'm going to talk about the cooperation among the competitors. Strategies that stress cooperation among competitors are being used more. For collaboration between competitors to succeed, both firms must contribute something distinctive, such as technology, distribution, basic research, or manufacturing capacity. But a major risk is that unintended transfer of important skill or technology may occur at organization level below where the deal was signed. Information not covered in the formal agreement often gets traded in the day-to-day interaction and dealing of engineering, marketers, and product developers. Firms often give away too much information to rival firms when operating under cooperative agreements. Tight formal agreements are needed there. The second one is the joint venture or the partnering. In joint venture, it is a popular strategy that occurs when two or more companies form a temporary partnership or consortium for the purpose of capitalizing on some opportunity. Often the two or more sponsoring firms form a separate organization and have shared equity ownership in the new entity. Other types of cooperative arrangement includes research and development uh, partnerships, cross-distribution agreements, cross-licensing agreements, cross-manufacturing agreements, and joint bidding consortia. One of the major example for the joint venture was the Sony Ericsson Mobiles, as they have formed a new firm to gain some of the opportunities, and one of them, Sony, was going to have the well-defined or very well-known entertainment related products skills, and Ericsson was very famous for the wireless communication devices. So they have joined their hand. They tried to go for the uh, smartphone manufacturing, but later on they have wound up that joint venture. A few common problems that cause joint ventures to fail are as follows. The first one is managers who must collaborate daily in operating the ventures are not involved in forming or shaping the venture. The venture may benefit the partnering companies but may not benefit customers, who then complain about poorer service or criticizes the companies in other ways. The third one is the venture may not be supported equally by both partners. If supported unequally, problems arises. The venture may begin to compete more with one of the partners than the others. Then there are the six guidelines for when a joint venture may be an especially effective means for pursuing strategies. The first one is when a privately owned organization is forming a joint venture with a publicly owned organization. There are some advantages to being privately held, such as closed ownership. There are some advantage of being publicly held, such as access to stock issuance as a source of capital. Sometimes the unique advantage of being privately and publicly held can be synergistically combined in a joint venture. The second advantage is when a domestic organization is forming a joint venture with a foreign company. A joint venture can provide a domestic company with the opportunity for obtaining local management in a foreign country, thereby reducing risks such as expropriation and harassment by host country officials. The third is the when the distinct competencies of two or more firms complement each other especially well. The next is the when some project is potentially very profitable but requires overwhelming resources and risks. The second last is when two or more smaller firms have trouble competing with the large firms. And the sixth one is when there exists a need to quickly introduce a new technology. Now we need to talk about the mergers and acquisition. Merger and acquisition are two commonly used ways to pursue strategies. A merger occurs when two organizations of about equal size unite to form one enterprise. An acquisition occurs when a large firm or organization purchases or acquires a smaller firm, or vice versa. When a merger or acquisition is not desired by both parties, it can be called a takeover or hostile takeover. In contrast, if the acquisition is desired by both firms, it is termed as a friendly merger. Most mergers are the friendly. In merger and acquisition, there is another term of the leveraged buyout, which occurs when a corporation's shareholders are bought by the company's management and other private investors using borrowed funds. Besides trying to avoid a hostile takeover. Others reasons for initiating an leverage buyout are senior management decisions that particularly divisions do not fit into an over corporate strategy or must be sold to raise cash or receipt of an attractive offering price. In leverage buyout takes a corporation private. Now we need to discuss some of the key reasons why many mergers and acquisition fails. The first reason for the failure of the merger and acquisition is the integration difficulties. Second is the inadequate evaluation of targets. Third is large or extraordinary debt. Fourth is inability to achieve the synergy. Fifth is too much diversification. Sixth is managers overly focused on acquisition. Seventh is too large an acquisition. Eighth is difficult to integrate different organizational cultures. And the last and the ninth is reduced employee morale due to layoffs and relocations. As we have seen some of the reason for the failure, there are some benefits as well of the merger and acquisitions. Uh, so, what are the benefits? To provide improved capacity utilization, to make better use of existing sales force, to reduce managerial staff, to gain economies of scale, to smooth out seasonal trends in sales, to gain access to new suppliers, distributors, customers, products, and creditors, to gain new technology, and to reduce tax obligations. Now, there is a need to talk about the first mover advantage. First mover advantage refer to the benefits a firm may achieve by entering a new market or developing a new product or service prior to competitive firms. Being the first mover can be especially wise when such actions, number one, build a firm's image and reputation with buyers. The second one, produce cost advantages over competitors in terms of new technologies, new components, new distribution channels, and so on. And the third, create strong, loyal customers. And the fourth one is make imitation or duplication by a competitor hard or unlikely. The risk associated with being the first mover are such as unexpected and unanticipated problems and costs that occur from being the first firm doing business in the new market. Therefore, being a slow mover can be effective when a firm can easily copy or imitate the lead's firm's product or services. If technology is advancing rapidly, slow movers can often leapfrog a first mover products with improved second generation product. However, slow movers often are relegated to rely on the first mover being a slow mover and making strategies and tactical mistakes. This situation does not occur often, so first mover advantage clearly offset the first mover disadvantages most of the time. Apple Incorporation has always been a good example of a first mover advantage. Now we need to talk about the outsourcing. It is meantime is going to be called as the business process outsourcing. So business process outsourcing is a rapidly growing new business that involves companies taking over the functional operations such as human resource, information system, payroll, accounting, customer service, and even marketing of other firms. Companies are choosing to outsource their functional operations more and more for several reasons. Number one, it is less expensive. Number two, it allows the firm to focus on its core business. And three, it enables the firm to provide better services. Other advantages of outsourcing are the strategy. Number one, allow the firm to align itself with best in words suppliers who focus on performing the special tasks. Provides the firm flexibility should customers' needs shift unexpectedly, and allows the firm to concentrate on other internal value chain activities critical to sustaining competitive advantage. Business process outsourcing is a mean for achieving strategies that are similar to partner and joint ventures. Now there is a need to talk about the strategic management in non-profit and government organization. There are three areas are going to be mentioned: education institution, medical organization, government agencies, and departments. So the strategic management process is being used effectively by countless non-profit and government organizations such as uh, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, the Red Cross, Chamber of Commerce, educational institution, medical institution, public utilities, libraries, government agencies, religious points like masajid and churches. The non-profit sector, surprisingly, is uh, by far America's largest employer. Uh, Even we can say in Pakistan as well, we are going to have more of the people, more of the population is employed by these non-profit and government organizations. So first of all, we need to talk about the educational institutions. Educational institutions are more frequently using strategic management techniques and concepts. As nowadays online colleges the college degrees are becoming common, as in Pakistan, graduate universities there, and represent a threat to traditional college and universities. You can put the kids to bed and go to law school, says Andrew Rawson, Chief Operating Officer of Kaplan Education Center, a subsidiary of Washington Post Company. So, my dear students, as nowadays we are using the online classes uh, due to this pandemic, but we are going to get the benefit of this. So, this is one of the competitive advantage. Not every organization is going to have such facilities as University of Central Punjab is going to have. Now we need to talk about the medical organization, as there are many hospitals and some others which are going to provide the facilities uh, to the general public. Like we are not going to have the stats for Pakistan, but some statistics of USA are going to be mentioned here. The 200 billion US hospital industry is experiencing declining margins, excess capacity, bureaucratic overburdening, poor planned and executed diversification strategies, soaring healthcare costs, reduced federal support, and high administrative turnover. The seriousness of this problem is centered by a 20% annual decline in use of inpatient nationwide. My dear student, I'm going to share some of the example even for the Pakistan, that you're going to see that many people are losing the trust onto very expensive private hospitals because they are thinking they are not performing their services as they need to perform. So now these hospitals need to focus on the strategic management, and they need to develop their strategies and they need to make the policies, and they need to go for the strategic planning for the purpose, so they can attract the people into their hospitals. Now we need to talk about the government agencies and departments. Like we can talk about the uh, WAPDA in Pakistan, Pakistan Railway Department, PIA, and many more. So they are going to provide the facilities. But as you are going to see that PIA is going to face the competition from the airlines from other countries, as well as the Pakistani private airline companies. So now they need to make a better strategy to focus at how they can have the competitive advantage uh, in their industry, because although they are going to be owned by the government of Pakistan, but they need to be in the profit. They cannot uh, run their operations while having a lot of loss, as people are now losing their trust onto the PIA planes and to their staff and their infrastructure and services. So this is all about the strategic management in non-profit and government organizations. Uh, Now this is the end of the chapter. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Uh, Now it's time for your questions and answers. Thank you very much.